Friendly faces on screen can be enemies when the cameras are off. Welcome to Beyond the Screen, I'm Nate, and these are 10 co-stars who hated each other off camera. Number 10. Nicki Minaj and Mariah Carey. The feud between these two was swift and difficult to hide. In 2012, Mariah and Nicki were co-judges on the singing competition American Idol, and despite functioning on somewhat the same page, things actually went sour very fast. Over a span of just a few short weeks, American Idol became a desolate wasteland of insults, swear words, and a ton of threats. Yeah, things got pretty heated. According to people that worked on set of the show, Mariah was the one making fun of Nicki, saying mean little comments every time they sat next to each other. She was always saying that Nicki couldn't sing and felt that she should not be judging others on their ability. Some other people claim the opposite is the case, but hey, who really knows? I wasn't on the set. What we do know is that things got so heated that Nicki stormed off set one day, threatening to physically harm Mariah as she did. In 2013, they must have had enough of each other as they both decided to quit the show and go their separate ways. Number 9. Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey. So let's get geeky for a second and talk about the movie Batman Forever. This movie was a failure from the moment the studio decided to fight Tim Burton on his vision. They recasted Michael Keaton, shifted the dark undertone, and turned the whole thing into a big live-action cartoon. Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones played the villains of the piece, the Riddler and Two-Face respectively. For Tommy, the set was nothing but a pain in the neck. According to Tommy and several of the people on set, himself and Jim would argue with each other constantly. He just hated Jim's improv, his goofy attitude, and his overall energetic performance. Now, he literally called Jim a buffoon following the film's release. Despite working very well together on screen, off screen, they were counting down the hours until production wrapped. Number 8. Freddie Prinze Jr. and Kiefer Sutherland. Kiefer is a man known for his roles in movies like Lost Boys or Stand By Me, and he's built himself a nice little nest egg. For a long time, he was starring in crime drama 24. A lot of celebrities made small cameos and recurring roles on that show, but in 2010, Scooby-Doo alumni Freddie Prinze Jr., and yes, I know he's been in other stuff, but that's how I know him, was casted as Cole Ortiz. Despite the massive success of the show, the job actually left him scarred and admitting that he hated every second of it. According to Freddie, Kiefer is just an unprofessional dude that he hated working with. Continuing to say that he wasn't talking trash, this was just something that he would happily say to Kiefer's face. Apparently, a ton of his co-stars agreed that he makes filming a living nightmare. Following the end of his character's time on the show, he did slow down in acting, now limiting himself to voiceover and cameo roles, and the odd thing was that while there was some backing up to Freddie's story, there were a lot of people defending Sutherland, claiming the exact opposite things had happened to them. Some say that he's the most professional man in the world, and some say that he is someone you gotta watch out for. So I don't know, let's get some hashtags going. Hashtag Kiefer good, bad, see which one wins. Number 7. Chevy Chase and Donald Glover. Chevy Chase became a popular man after being involved with National Lampoon and Saturday Night Live way back in the day, but he returned to the mainstream when he starred as Pierce Hawthorne in Community. I genuinely love this show, and Chevy, it got better when he left. It would appear that his Community co-stars would agree with that statement. Around the middle of the show, Chevy started to complain about his co-stars, especially Donald Glover. It became apparent that he was just angry with him and was eventually fired for using racial slurs against him. According to Donald himself, aka Troy Barnes, Chevy would often make inappropriate jokes either aimed right at him or just as a general way to disrupt a scene. Joel McHale, who played Jeff Winger, told people that before he was fired, Chevy was complaining about his character's position on the show and how he was being portrayed. Well, the entire cast reminded him that there wasn't anything that actually was keeping him there, which might have been part of what set him off. His character was written out of the show in humiliating fashion, and I'm not gonna spoil it for you. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. He feeds some geese for just a bit too long, if you know what I mean. Number 6. Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is known for a lot of things. One of his most iconic roles as an actor is of course the Merc with the Mouth, Deadpool himself. However, in 2008, Ryan was a part of a very different Marvel movie. As some might know, the original Marvel movie that started this whole live-action comics trend was Blade, starring Wesley Snipes as the titular vampire hunter. By the time the third film of that franchise rolled around, Wesley Snipes was actually just done with working on set. He hated the way the franchise was turning out, and all of his creative suggestions were very quickly shut down. His main problem was the fact that Blade Trinity was written as a straight-up comedy movie when the previous entries were more dark and action-packed. filled with gore and some pretty stellar fight sequences. So when Van Wilder was casted to be his co-star, he kinda gave up. He famously refused to film several scenes unless he was allowed to keep his shades on. Apparently he was just micro-napping during takes because he just didn't care anymore. Ryan Reynolds played a big part in his difficulty enjoying the film. Apparently, Reynolds just made it his mission to make Wesley snap. He'd constantly do bits, push things too far, make stuff up on the set. At the end of the day, Blade Trinity ended up burying the franchise, and it was one of the most chaotic and toxic film sets probably ever. Number 5. Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron. Mad Max Fury Road is a wonderful film in cinema history. It featured like no CGI despite having some incredible visuals, and it also had some pretty stellar performances from its cast, including Nicholas Hoult, Charlize Theron, and Tom Hardy. Charlize and Tom played the main characters, Furiosa and Max. While their on-screen characters end up working together in the end, on set it was just very different. Tom had a bit of a bad habit for showing up late, basically all the time. Meanwhile, Charlize was a brand new mother who would be on time every day while her kids were forced to be taken care of by someone else. In a book called Red, Sweat and Chrome, The Wild and True Story of Mad Max, writer Kyle Buchanan shared an instance on set between Charlize and Tom. Everyone was on set, 8 a.m., ready to go, except for Tom. But to make a point, Charlize took her place and stayed there for 3 hours until Tom finally showed up. She didn't move a muscle, and according to the crew, she was beyond furious. When Tom finally showed up, she asked him how he could be so disrespectful. They said that they should fine the See You Next Tuesday $100,000 for every minute that he held up the crew. She didn't say see you next Tuesday, but the word she did say set Tom off. He rushed up to her and pulled out the whole "what did you just say to me" thing, because he's a big tough guy and he can't hear well. Overall, Charlize felt pretty threatened by Tom and had to have an assistant follow her around on set as a buffer between the two, and I found out that following the film they actually apologized, mended things up, and Tom realized that he was a bit intense on set, which is to say the least. Number 4. The Rock and Vin Diesel. Dwayne and Vin first met on the set of the 5th Fast and Furious movie. This was Vin Diesel's 5th movie while it was Dwayne's first, not just in a franchise, but in the acting world in general. At first, everything was okay with these guys on set. Fast 5 was pretty good, it made a lot of money, and they asked Dwayne to come back for 2 more movies. However, something changed. In 2016, in a now deleted post, he called out one of his fellow Fast 7 co-stars a candy. He actually said a word that rhymes with grass. Rumors started to fly that he was more than likely referencing Vin Diesel. Rumors that were proven true only a week after that post was made. Following the premiere of Fate of the Furious, Johnson posted to Instagram thanking all of his fellow cast and crew, but he left Vin Diesel out of that thank you. It was later confirmed by Fast and Furious co-star Michelle Rodriguez that there was a massive amount of tension on the set of the film. They were buddies at first, but as time went on and the franchise evolved, so did their egos. They fought constantly over who should receive more screen time, who the real lead of the franchise was, all that fun toxic masculinity. To keep both actors happy, Johnson was given a spin-off in which he co-starred with Jason Statham, and Vin Diesel was left right where he belongs with his family, probably making Fast 21 right now. Number 3. Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze. Jen and Patrick have starred in a few movies together, most of which were made in the 1980s and are still talked about to this day. Before starring together in the classic 1987 flick Dirty Dancing, they were featured in the film Red Dawn. According to Jennifer, the set was a nightmare for her. While their characters were okay on screen, off screen, Pat was apparently pulling pranks on crew and cast left and right. She said that he was a very alpha individual and acted a lot like a socially unaware jock. She told the director that the things that he was doing just made her uncomfortable and it was just a bit too much. Following Red Dawn, they parted ways for a while but got back together for Dirty Dancing, something that actually almost didn't happen. Jennifer screen tested with Patrick and knew that there was something there, but that she just wasn't into the idea of working with this guy one-on-one. During the audition process, Patrick took Jennifer aside and with tears in his eyes, he apologized for his actions, telling her that this film could only work if they were on the same page. According to Jennifer, the moment following their interaction was when he lifted her up into the air for the first time, and that was it. Nobody else could have been in this movie. There is actually a sequel to the original film in the works, but no current release date is public. Number 2. Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling. The Notebook is of course considered to be one of the best romantic movies ever made. Oddly enough, this on-screen couple actually did not get along at all while they were filming. They'd constantly fight on set and had completely different ideas on how most of the scenes should play out. One day in particular was pretty exciting for anyone not involved. Ryan called over the director and demanded that Rachel be replaced by another actress because the way she was reading her lines just didn't work for him. In front of 150 crew members, he was like, "Rachel isn't giving me anything, get her out of here." The two would constantly yell on set, and that was probably one of the worst days. Their toxic on-set feud somehow morphed into a relationship. They were together for like 2 years, and anyone who worked on the set blames them for constant schedule setbacks and just making an overall bad work environment. And at number 1, Janet Hubert and Will Smith. Will Smith got his big break in the acting world thanks to the success of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, a show that was fantastic and followed Will as the titular prince living with his family in Bel-Air, surrounded by cousins, uncles, and Aunt Viv. In season 1, Aunt Viv was played by a woman named Janet Hubert Whitten, but as a lot of people know, she was recasted because an on-set feud with Will just went way too far. According to Will, Janet just saw him as a bad guy, you know? She had been in the business for years when Will suddenly popped into her life. She held a lot of jealousy towards him because he just kind of walked into town and got a job, which is what happens when you're good at acting, I guess. She was trying to convince the producers of the show to give her character more screen time and let her breathe, but of course they said no because it's not the Aunt Viv show. She fought back hard, but it was ultimately decided that she would be asked to sit out for the rest of the series, and she got replaced by Daphne Maxwell Reid, who is the legendary Aunt Viv that we all know and love. And those are some celebrities that hated each other off screen. Would you like to see a part 2? Let us know in the comments below. Drop a like on the bottom if you enjoyed the video, and follow us for more celebrity content each and every day. See you next time.